So the last time me and Sir Donald were live talking about the New York Football Giants, we had Tommy DeVito only as our quarterback. Now the New York Giants have added two more veterans, including 10-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion Russell Wilson. So the Giants quarterback room for the very moment is stacked with experience, and there's a lot to get into within the course of this little live stream that we're going to do. It's funny, before I get to Donald's thoughts, that Tuesday, Russell Wilson signed with the Giants, but I had a Yankee stream to do that night, so I wasn't about to tell people, hey, listen, I got to do a stream or whatever. But the big topic today is Yankees opening day. They won, and we're going to talk about Russell Wilson. But we got to talk about it. We got to talk about all the QB stuff. Donald, what was your first reaction? I don't know if it was me telling you or the internet on
you
Russell
told
Wilson
me.
signing.
You told me. You broke it. I'm actually psyched, man. I'm kind of psyched. I'm interested to see how this quarterback room is going to shake out. I like what they did. I have to be honest. I like what they did. It takes the pressure off their selection at 3. Now they don't need to force a quarterback at 3. They don't need to force maybe picking too high for a dart or taking a Shadur Sanders if you're not totally in love with him. You don't need to do that now. And in fact, I'm on board with not selecting a quarterback in the first round now. Heck, even the second round. I want Carter, Mason Graham, maybe even Hunter. Best player available. Go BPA at 3 and then continue to stock up in the second round. And hey, if you want to take a flyer in the third round, fine, with quarterback, that's fine. Winston and Russell Wilson are better than what we've had in years. years. And I know that Russell Wilson is not the same quarterback as he was. I get that, but he's still an upgrade to what we've had in the last couple of years. And to be honest, so was Winston, which we'll get into as well. I mean, I like the Winston signing. That guy's got a hell of an arm. He's going to make things exciting. He's going to do some dumb plays, but maybe Dable might kind of calm down the dumb plays and maybe accentuate the positives with him. So I like it. I like the move. And I think the Giants could be a low-key kind of fun team next year. I'm not saying they're going to be a winning team, but they're going to be a fun team. And that's all we've been waiting for a while, man. Just have a fun Giant season, where they're competitive after like October 31st.
Yeah, that's all we're asking for. What's up to Mike in the chat? We'll definitely talk about the draft. Sorry to hear about your Mets. I know that a lot of Yankee fans, and this is not me, I don't think it's Donald either, that were on Twitter. They were doing the tweeting, Donald, because Juan Soto had the final strikeout of the Mets game. And, of course, Yankee fans had to, do their tweetily.
Yeah, there's not like another 161 games for Soto to
absolutely not.
To have a hell of a game. Yeah, right.
Not at all. So some of the main key topics, and by the way, folks, if you haven't already, hit that like button, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or video drops. Share this out. Follow Donald on Twitter at dstewart267 and also subscribe to the Pinstripe Chronicles. And you know what? Credit to Tats today. I did see that he called the Wells home run.
He did, man. He did. He said like the second or third pitch of the game, he said that Wells was going to hit a home run. So, I mean, I asked him for the lottery numbers, and I asked him to predict how this following year is going to be. He's failed to come through in that regard, but he came through with Austin Wells, so that's pretty good.
That's one leg up. But a couple of things I want to get into in the course of this live stream is definitely how the Giants are going to draft after this, because this the Winston thing does a couple of things, but getting Russell Wilson, first of all, and also the expectations of the New York Giants this coming year, because they have a relatively tough schedule. But again, there's a lot of things that go into that. I think the contract was a major steal. Now, I want to gauge your thoughts on this. Like Kyle Brandt this morning, and I usually don't go on the mainstream media type thing, like the ESPN's for Giants reactions, and he was making some good points. But the problem is that nobody's arguing with him. He basically said Giant fans should not have Super Bowl expectations, and this is not the Russell Wilson from years ago. I'm like, well, yes, but nobody's arguing with that.
No.
But he said that, oh well, Daniel Jones was more sought out in the market than Russell Wilson.
No.
I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Because let's look at the two quarterbacks and what they were looking for. Daniel Jones was looking for an opportunity to start and compete for a starting job. He wasn't obviously he could have went to a team that was that much interested in him and said, "Okay, we're going to bring you in. You're going to be our starter." No. The Colts brought him in because Anthony Richardson has had injury and consistency issues.
Mm-hmm.
The Vikings were teetering on bringing him back, but J.J. McCarthy is there. They didn't bring him back after all. So that's a
They just worked with him for about 3-4 months.
Exactly.
If they liked what they saw, they would have re-signed him.
Yeah, at a cheap price and all that. So I disagree with that take because Russell Wilson, I mean, yes, I know he's 36 years old. He's an aging quarterback, but I think he wanted to see where the ball would drop for quarterbacks, right? I mean, obviously he was not getting Sam Darnold money. I think it was like 35 or 37 AAV. He wasn't going to get some of these other quarterbacks money, but I think he also wanted to see where Aaron Rodgers and that domino fell. That domino has not fallen yet. We know he's probably going to be with the Steelers or retire. But this sense that Russell Wilson, he didn't have as much of a market as Daniel Jones, I think is just nonsense. Because I definitely think the Browns were interested. You look at their quarterback room right now. You take a look at the Steelers. There was some reports that they didn't want to bring him back, but there was some interest there. And then you have the New York Giants. So I'm not going to sit here and drive out all these great expectations for the Giants this year, but I think too many people, to be honest, to start. And obviously the Giants have no grounds to earn a positive reputation. I just think that some mainstream folks are like taking this way too much out of context than what it actually is. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, just because Daniel Jones signed earlier than Russell Wilson doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. They're completely different scenarios. The teams that were desperate for a quarterback, Russell Wilson were in the conversation for those teams that were desperate for a quarterback, including us. Now, obviously, you can make the argument that the Giants have maybe gotten their third choice quarterback, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it was the wrong option. And I mean, we talked to your brother, who obviously watched Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, and he was like, "I don't think it's the right fit for you guys," and I think he's probably right. I think Russell Wilson just seems like he really wants to be at MetLife. So he seems really enthusiastic about it. He's really excited about the opportunity. He's been wanting to be a Giant actually for a while. So it kind of makes sense. And maybe he'll outperform his numbers from last year. I think there's a solid chance of that. And guess what? If he doesn't, you've got Jameis Winston, who is probably the best backup quarterback. He's definitely one of the best backup quarterbacks in the league. He has been for a while just because of his upside. Now, obviously, with a turnover problem, it is what it is. But it means that if Russell Wilson needs to miss a couple of weeks, Jameis Winston's going to step in and be just fine. So I'm all right with this. I'm all right with this, man, because I really don't think Shadur Sanders is the answer. I'm not a big fan of him. I don't know why. I'm just not feeling it. And I think we're in a better position now where at least we've solidified the quarterback room. And that means that we can now flash needs because there's still positions in need. And then we can look into next year for the quarterback where there's a deeper quarterback pool than this year. It's a very weak quarterback class. For me, it's Ward, and that's kind of it. Now, that stupid win, we're not going to get into again because it was the stupidest win I can ever imagine. It was incredibly stupid. Cam Ward was the guy. We won ourselves out of it. It was ridiculous, but we did. But this is, for me, this is the best alternative option because instead of reaching for Shadur Sanders, we've now got ourselves a pretty solid quarterback room. I'm not going to expect miracles from them, but to be honest, what were we like 1-9 in one score games last year? And a lot of it was because of the quarterback. A lot of it was because of the quarterback. And I do believe that even a mediocre quarterback probably wins us another 3-4 games, probably 3. And we're not nearly as much of a joke as we are. I don't think our roster is as bad as it was made to look. And a lot of it is because Daniel Jones is completely incompetent. He was always incompetent. And I'm kind of glad that we've got some at least average quarterbacks in the room now. I'm not saying Russell Wilson's going to be a star, not by any stretch. Those days are past. But I think he's going to give you average quarterback play. And to be honest, that's not a bad thing. I think that's fine. That's kind of all right. And I'm not expecting us to make the playoffs. I'm just asking for us to be competitive and kind of make progress and continue to develop the young talent we have and have a really good draft. There's some nice running backs in this class. Can maybe add a receiver and get some pass rush in there in the building. And I feel pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. So also, by the way, the contract is very cheap. Like 10.5 million per year, and that goes up to 21 with incentives. That's a very cheap contract compared to Justin Fields, who Russell Wilson played for Justin Fields because Justin Fields got benched.
That's true.
And he earned $10 million less. So that's a little crazy. It's a little crazy to think about. I mean, obviously, yeah, part of it was the fact that the options were lowering down and Russell Wilson's wanted to play here since 2019. That's when the rumors really started coming out. I mean, hell, I remember people after 2021 talking about Russell Wilson coming here. But the contract is very cheap. I want to talk about, I guess let's stop avoiding the topic for me at least. And let's go into the draft aspect of it, right?
Let's go.
What's up to Miz in the chat? What's up to George? Hope you guys are doing well. We're going to get to the comments in a few seconds. I still, to be honest with you, Donald, and I've been so busy as of late, and it's not even funny. I need to sit down and actually watch Shedeur Sanders. I need to watch Cam Ward. I'm not really interested. I already watched Dart before the Senior Bowl. I'm not like he was okay for me before the Senior Bowl, and then the Senior Bowl where he fumbled twice. I'm like, I don't know. In my personal opinion, whether it's the first two that I mentioned, Ward or Sanders, I think the Giants, in my personal opinion, still have to come out of this draft with a quarterback. I will say this though, to remark on what you said. This is the best quarterback room that the Giants have had in so many years, right? Because you take a look, even in 2019, you had Eli Manning, you had Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, not great. You also had Alex Tanney. 2018, you had Eli Manning, you had Kyle Lauletta, you had, I want to say, I think Alex Tanney was the backup again. Then 2017, you had Eli Manning and Geno Smith. That's probably what this quarterback room looks like. Is going back to 2017. That's about freaking 8 years ago. So, and we're not even talking about a prime Eli Manning. That's how bad of a quarterback hell we've been in. And listen, Kenny from Unpopular Opinion Sports, shout outs to him. I was on his channel for a pre-recorded video not too long ago. It actually released today. And he's like, yeah, last year, Alex, I remember you saying Jameis Winston should be a Giant. And this was in 2024 when they signed Drew Lock. And I'm like, you guys signed Drew Lock for $5 million. Jameis Winston got $1 million. That doesn't make any sense at all. So they're kind of correcting that mistake. But overall, I mean, on the first basis, before we get into the depths of things, and I could read the comments a little bit, let's just say you don't draft a quarterback, or maybe even if you take a flyer guy, you still know that if you want to semi-compete for things, that if Russell Wilson goes down, the season is not an abject fucking failure.
Exactly. It's not good. Because you can make the argument that Winston should be starting.
Yeah, I mean, I know you and I were talking about that and stuff like that and whatever, but I mean, we were talking about originally just having like a low tier backup come in here with a rookie, and that would have been in production wise. Obviously, expectations would have changed. That would have been far worse. But again, stuff has moved around, and you know what I like this, Donald, and I know that my buddy Miz in the chat was we were arguing over it and all these other different things. He was a guy that wanted to trade for Matt Stafford. I was not a fan. I said, I'm not giving up assets for a 37-year-old quarterback who may not even want to come here. Fast forward, we got Russell Wilson. The approach changes a little bit, but again, the contract is cheap, and you gave up you didn't even give up anything to go get Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson wanted to come to you. So
I am not on board with giving up assets for quarterback help.
No.
As good as Matt Stafford is, and Matt Stafford is better than Russell Wilson. I'm not saying that they're not, but is he that much better that you're okay giving up premium assets for a rebuilding team? Because we're still rebuilding. Let's not forget about that. If we were closer to competing, then yes, you make that Stafford deal, but we're not. So I think this is much better. I'm okay going with a free agent. And I thought about it, and I'm thinking Russell Wilson's going to want to prove something. Plus, he actually wants to be here, unlike Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers did not want to be a Giant. He just didn't. He would have chosen to retire than go and be a Giant. That's not someone you want to be your QB1, because once shit hits the fan, and it will, then Rodgers is going to just do his normal Rodgers thing, and then the Giants will be more cooked than this situation where Russell Wilson's desperate to be a Giant. He's got something to prove, and he seems genuinely happy to be here, and that's the kind of people you want in the building. So I think that he's a better fit. I don't think he's better than Aaron Rodgers as it is right now, but he's a better fit, and that's okay, and that's absolutely fine. Mike says here, Rodgers could have done a ton of damage to this franchise in 1 year. He could have.
He would have gotten everybody fired.
Oh yeah, and because he doesn't want to. So say the Giants just paid him a stupid amount of money to convince him not to go to Pittsburgh or retire. Then you'll come here, and once things start to go wrong, they start losing, then he's gonna just do his thing, his Aaron Rodgers thing. It's everyone else's fault. Either force the general manager to make dumb trades like he did last year for Davante Adams, or just pout and get force management to get fired and all that stuff. And it just seems like an unnecessary distraction for 1 year. And it's not like he's going to be a Pro Bowler or anything like that, so it isn't worth it. So I think Wilson is a fine alternative. He's cheaper. He's not, he's not certifiable, and that's always good. And he genuinely wants to be a Giant, and these days, that's not a bad thing. And he also wants to be at MetLife, which is, he might be the only person in the world who wants to play at MetLife. So these are all good things, man. So I'm kind of excited. I want to see what he's going to do, and I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, and before I get to the comments, like, back in the day when I started getting into football, I was probably around 10, 11 years old. That was around the time that the Patriots beat the Seahawks. And, obviously I like the Giants. But the Seahawks at that time, especially Russell Wilson-led Seahawks, they were not – I wouldn't call them a dynasty, but they were not a playoff team that you hate. Like, everybody thinks the Patriots dynasty. You fucking hate them. Chiefs dynasty. You fucking hate them. The Dodgers dynasty. You fucking hate them. Right? I don't think a lot of people maybe I'm wrong. I don't think a lot of people dislike the Legion of Boom and the Russell Wilson-led Seattle Seahawks. That team had generally good character. I mean, it underwhelmed because they only came out with one Super Bowl victory. But that was one of my favorite teams to watch as a kid. And now just seeing Russell Wilson as a New York Giant, that's why a lot of
he's always one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch.
Yeah.
It's going to be nice to see a genuinely decent quarterback. We've not had a good quarterback since Eli Manning. It's as simple as that. I know there's going to be Daniel Jones defenders and all that stuff, and that's absolutely fine. Come at me all you want, but Russell Wilson's the best quarterback that we've had since Eli Manning, and there's not much of a doubt about that. Even in Russell Wilson's diminished state, and it is diminished. Don't get me wrong, it's diminished significantly, but I still put a Russell Wilson diminished state over Daniel Jones. I really would.
Yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson had 16 touchdowns last year, and Daniel Jones had 15 in 2022, and that's the highest he's gotten since his rookie year.
Yeah, and
I think the argument ends right there.
Yeah, it was a stupid contract. So this is much cheaper, much more agreeable contract. And to be fair, Joe Schoen is low-key cooked this offseason.
Oh, he's done a good job.
He's done fine. I can't believe it. He's done fine in a no-win situation. And believe me, it's a no-win situation, considering that John Mara is then you have to win games or whatever. I'm going to fire you. He gave more reasons to fire him than keep him, and kept him. And he still managed to make pretty smart moves, and he's not effed us moving forward, which is really good too. He's not made stupid deals that's going to really hurt us. He's actually been very good with the salary cap, and I like that he's not given up significant assets yet. And that's good. I don't want him to give up first round pick in 2026 or to move up for a Cam Ward. I think that's a smart play. I don't want to do that. Because we have to remember where we're at. We're a rebuilding team.
Yeah,
we've got to keep our hold of our assets. I'm very much on top of
this.
That.
This right here is a big exclamation point. And I think this happened. I was at training camp every single day last year, and Donald would text me for updates, or I text Donald updates, and I would tell him Daniel Jones underthrew the ball again. So in that case, I'm excited to see Russell Wilson deep balls after having to watch Daniel Jones underthrow and miss receivers deep. It's gonna be a lot of fun in training camp. As I said, go subscribe to Pitch Time Chronicles. I've always liked Shane and Dable. I got 9 received list. Listen, both of us wanted Shane and Dable out. Like at the end of the year, it's not about who wants who out. Listen, at the end of the day, right? I always say this either as a content creator, as a fan, objective standpoint. I root for this team. I root for who's on the field for the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we didn't root for them against the Colts because they won that stupid little game. And I wanted Joe Schoen and I wanted Brian Dable out. Donald could say the same thing. But that's what we want because it's the best for our team. It's not rooting against to root against. But, I mean, people will be people. No, I didn't see the Dart tweet. What tweet is that? Share if you put it in the chat and then I'll view it on Twitter. Unless you're talking about Dart's Pro Day tomorrow. I saw Garofalo, Rappaport, and Pelissero had a roundtable, and they were basically talking how the Browns and the Giants have been talking to him. They're two teams that are at the top of the second round, so I guess it would make sense. Russell only cook as far as the O-line allows key. It's all run game. Yeah, there's definitely stuff to talk about in terms of that, looking at Milroe.
Sorry to interrupt. Is it because Jackson Dart spent extensive time with the Browns, according to Ian Rappaport? That might be it.
According to Rap Sheet okay.
The Giants have as well.
The Giants have, yeah. The Giants and the Browns are the two teams that are mostly linked to him.
I don't really like Jackson Dart that much.
To me, as I said, the Senior Bowl was really the thing that kind of put me down about him because, he fumbled the ball twice. He just didn't look good. I mean, again, hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't know. Travis Hunter's obviously an option. I know Miz was saying Abdul Carter and all these different things. So let's talk about the draft portion of things before we get into the expectations, because I do have a theory on what the Giants should do, whether it's quarterback or not at 3 and coming out of this draft class.
Mm-hmm.
What is your plan, Donald? What do you want? What do you want the Giants to do at 3 or in the first 2 rounds?
Abdul Carter at 3, because I'm going to go with the Ernie Accorsi philosophy, and I've kind of always stood by that. You can never have enough pass rushers. That was an Ernie Accorsi philosophy, as well as if you're completely and utterly in love with a quarterback, do whatever you take to get him. I don't think the Giants are completely and utterly in love with a quarterback. Thus, it's not worth doing whatever it takes to get him. So I'm following the Ernie Accorsi because I'm from that era. Thus, I'm following his philosophy. When we drafted Matthias Kiwanuka, even though we had a ton of pass rushers, it was criticized at the time, but Kiwi's a pretty good player, man. You can never have enough pass rushing, and it would also open up opportunities so that we don't necessarily need to pick up Tibbs' fifth option, or if you do, you can still trade him and get a significant asset for 2026 when we're going to need a quarterback in the draft. That's not a bad idea because I think Abdul Carter is going to be an absolute beast, and he's going to be better than Kayvon Thibodeau. So I think that, or I could even go Mason Graham and have Mason Graham beside Dexter Lawrence. I'm going to go with that. Now, a lot of people love Hunter. I'm just not sure what Hunter's best at. You know what I'm saying? Is he kind of like a master at like a ton of things rather than elite at one? You know what I'm saying? Is he just kind of pretty good corner and a pretty good receiver? Because I'd rather elite at one of the two rather than pretty good.
Just decent, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of. I need to see how it turns out. Maybe the draft process, and he's just going to be freaking incredible at both. And then, okay, I'm going to change my mind. But at the moment, we're kind of good at the secondary. I kind of like our secondary now. You know, we've got Adebo. You know, we got Banks on the other side, and we got Phillips, and we've got Hollins. We're pretty good in the secondary. So I don't necessarily know if we really need to get Hunter, who's going to be a kind of another corner. He could play receiver, but is he? You know, I need to see how he is as a receiver at the elite level. I'm going Carter. I think Carter is the man. I think he's the best option there. And then you can use that second round pick to go and take a Jalen Milroe or heck a Jackson Dart. And it's not really the end of the world. That's what I'm thinking.
Now let me ask you this before I give my take. You're at 3. Let's just say Abdul Carter's off the board. Do you take Travis Hunter, or if Shedeur Sanders is still on the board, do you try to trade back with a team that wants him and ask for next year's first for security reasons?
Yes, probably.
Cool.
I think you probably do.
Probably take that over. I mean, the problem
as long as it's not a huge drop.
Yeah, if you're dropping to 20, you're probably not doing.
I'm not dropping out of the top 10.
Yeah. Let me see. Well, let me look at the draft order. I don't know that the Raiders would be on it. They have Geno Smith for another few years. I don't think the Jets would pick a quarterback. They might. The Saints at 9 is probably the team.
Mm-hmm.
One of the teams.
Maybe. Yeah, you can see that.
Let's see. Patriots, no. Jaguars, no. Panthers, maybe, but it's pretty much all wild cards because, as we mentioned, this class isn't great for like primary quarterbacks. War is obviously consensus, but everybody has their opinions on Dart. Everybody has their opinions on Shedeur Sanders.
So let's go with that scenario.
Sure.
Say the Saints, and then we drop down to 9.
Okay.
Let's think about the draft board. Have you got like a consensus draft board? Because we want to make sure that we're not completely out on the elite options.
So I'm gonna pull up a mock simulator draft board. I mean, we'll do a mock at the end, but I just want to pull up a draft board just for my reference.
Yeah.
What I will say is this though, and I kind of agree. Jim Nagy, who is the former director of the Senior Bowl, who's now the general manager of Oklahoma University football, he said that there's only 10 guys who are like first round grades, and everybody else just kind of like drops and falls in there. It's pretty much everyone. It's up to everyone else's judgment. That's the problem, and that's a very good point you bring up. Like, I don't want to. You said you don't want to drop out of the top 10. I wouldn't either. It would have to take a lot for me to drop out of the top 10 because, again, that talent kind of just goes down. Now, let's just say, okay, we do drop back to that number 9 hole, the Saints, right? They come up. So we got the Titans. Let's say they pick Cam Ward. The Browns, let's say they pick Abdul Carter. The Saints, let's say they pick Shador Sanders. The Patriots, I'm gonna skin a cat here, and I'm gonna say they pick Will Campbell because they need a left tackle and a left
Yeah, I
tackle
can see
badly.
that. I can see that.
The Jacksonville Jaguars, let's say they go Travis Hunter. The
Yeah.
Raiders, I really don't know what the Raiders need, but I
So
can tell you the
they could probably
Jets.
go. They'd probably go Mason.
You're right. You're right. Good thinking. And Pete Carroll's defensive coach. So
Yeah.
there's that. Number 7, the Jets probably go Tyler Warren. The Panthers had one of the best O lines in the NFL last year, according to a lot of reports and a lot of surprises to a lot of different people. I don't know what they would go, but that's really one pick in front of us, so we don't have to do any major thinking there. So that would leave us Shador, Mason Graham, Ashton Genty, Armin Membu, Tet McMillan, Jalen Walker, Will Johnson, Kelvin Banks, Shamar Stewart. So you see that the talent just kind of like drops a little bit.
Kind of drops, isn't it?
It's like it's like late first round talent, and it's jumping up because of the lack of top 10 talent in this draft. And before we get to the comments, like, where would you go there? It's a dicey set of options.
I think I'd probably go Genty.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But because I think he's pretty exciting, but it's not great, is it?
No, it's not. Not at all. Genty and Tracy, so I can't move past Vegas. Shamar Stewart or Mason Graham. Hunter not getting past the Patriots. Vegas is a sweet spot. If you go to 9, I'd look for a first. I'm gonna be complete. Well, actually, I would look for a second. If you go any further than that, I'm looking for a first rounder.
It has to be a first rounder.
No, absolutely.
But say we did go to just took a Carter 3, then Thibodeau is tradable, and
Yes.
you can still acquire an asset for 2026 in order to help you trade up to get that quarterback. So I probably would do that, but if you did drop, I'd be okay dropping down to about 6 or 7. 9 seems like it's a
That's like the farthest I would go.
It's
we're already at the barrel. We're already at the bottom of the barrel.
It's not the deepest class in the first round.
No, this is like, honestly, like, I mean, I've been doing draft coverage for a few years. This is like, it's so mid. Once you get past like Genty and all those different guys, I mean, Membu's great, but he was only projected to be like a mid first rounder. He could go in the top 10 with all this. Yeah, no, Miz is a big Dart fan and a big Carter fan. Who would I go at 9? Because you could get your legitimate future right tackle in Armin Membu. You could get another dynamic receiver in Ted McMillan.
Yeah.
Or you could get another edge. Or you could get Will Johnson, who a lot of people...
Who's the other edge that you would like? Shamar?
I haven't watched Shamar Stewart. I think he was at the Senior Bowl. I got to ask my brother's assessment on him. And then you get into the Mike Greens of the world, the Jahdae Barons. Yeah, so I don't know. I wouldn't move past 9.
No.
That just...
I think 9's actually a little bit of a maybe
reach.
Too steep. Yeah, it's almost too deep.
Yeah, like let everybody else pick there. So my philosophy is I'm going to be completely transparent, as we like to say on this channel. If Shador is still there, and this is before even watching Shador Sanders, I would still teeter on taking him. Because whatever the situation may be, I still think the Giants have to come out of this with the quarterback. I think the reason that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll have stayed is because Mara promised them maybe get your quarterback. Russell Wilson is 36. Despite all the fun that we're talking about, and I love that Russell Wilson's here as a football fan for a while, and Donald loves that Russell Wilson's here. He's only here for a year. Right? There's no guarantees next year we're going to be in the top 10 or the top 5 to pick another quarterback. We don't know who's going to come out next year. Nussmeier is probably going to come out, but then it's a wild card for the next couple of guys. I'm not the biggest fan of Drew Aller. That's just my personal opinion from Penn State. There's a number of guys. So that's why, like, we talked about, okay, if we trade back tonight, we got to get first rounder because that's going to help us move up for next year's quarterback, wherever we may sit. Because, I mean, Russell Wilson, as much as we like him and, all these different things, he doesn't change the perspective too much
No,
on a Giant
no,
season. And I
no.
think a lot of people just have to adjust themselves to that. And I think a lot of people have. Because Russell Wilson, you still have a completely tough schedule. You could beat Dallas. I'm going to say that right now. You could definitely beat Dallas. I'm not confident in, their head coach, Brian Schottenheimer. You might be able to squeeze out a game versus Washington. I think you still probably lose 2 to the Eagles. And let me pull up the schedule right here.
Oh, it's a nightmare schedule.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful.
If it was last year's schedule this year,
then we different story.
I feel pretty good about 7 wins.
Yeah, no. So let's see. So, all right, I said Washington once and Dallas once. That's 2, right? We'll start with the home schedule. The Vikings. That is honestly, that's a wild card because of McCarthy. That's a wild card. I don't know where they're going to be at. The Chargers, you're not beating them. The 49ers, until further notice, I say it's a wild card at best. I don't know.
We could beat the 49ers. I don't like it. The 49ers had one of the worst off seasons I've ever freaking seen. So there's a possibility there for the 49ers.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll teeter like 3 or 4, like 2 wild cards, 2 wins, just for the sake of it, right? I don't think you're beating Green Bay. I think they have a good operation over there. So that's like 2 wins and 2 wild cards. Now you move to the away schedule. I think you could definitely attempt to beat New England. Drake May, Stephon Diggs. I like those additions. I like their other defensive additions. I think Vrabel's a good coach. Wanted him. That's a tough ride. That's going to come down. I think you could beat New Orleans. I think you could beat New Orleans in a dome. I think it's going to happen. The Raiders. I think you could beat.
Yeah.
So, that's probably like 4 wins right there. You're probably not. I don't think you're beating the Broncos. I feel like
probably not.
They have some good talent over there. The Lions, you're not beating. You're not beating any of the opponents in the NFC East away. Maybe the Bears. Maybe.
Yeah, I could see that.
So you're looking at I would say between 4 and 7. It can't be 4. It has to be between 5 and 10.
Well, I think we've almost got 5 kind of guarantees. Well, not guarantees, but like ones anyway. And then we've got kind of a wild card as well. So yeah, I would say between 5 and 6 wins, 5 to 7 wins.
Yeah.
Which is kind of it's not the worst thing in the world.
No. I think
5 wouldn't be enough to keep Shane. It would need to be in the 6 or 7 range.
Yeah, no,
to keep Shane McDable. 5 guarantees us probably be in that quarterback mix for the better ones.
Yeah.
So if we doubled our win total, I think that's more than doable. I think we beat the 49ers right now.
Yeah.
They look like a mess right now. So
right.
They do look beatable. So maybe we get 6 wins.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, right, we have to also think about this from the Shane and Dable perspective and the Mara perspective. You can't just come out here, win 6 games with Russell Wilson and say that's your that's the foundation of why you should be kept.
Oh, yeah.
You have to, and obviously I have a point at the end of this, which I'll get into eventually. You'll have to see some progression from the team, but also I think you almost have to still come away with the quarterback just to say, okay, well, this said dude, Jalen Milroe, a Will Howard, a Kyle McCord, any of those guys, if you're, let's say by October 31st, I don't know, you're 2-6, you're 3-5 is on the edge of still you're in it. If you're 2-6,
2-6 is probably sackable. They need to actually win some kind of games.
Yeah. Exactly. So you can't just come into this for Dable and Shane. As much we've given them credit, they've done a nice job this offseason. But
Right.
you have to have a plan. This is
Yeah.
not just about this year, because if it was just about this year, the roster would be better, and you'd have the expectations of 9 to 10 wins. I don't. We both don't see the Giants doing it that way. We have to look forward to something. We have to look forward to something,
Facts.
and
There
that's
has to
why.
be progress. There has to be
Yeah,
progress. So if we doubled our win total and um, whoever we take at 3 is developing nicely, right? Our free agent signings have turned out to be very solid. Maybe we get a step up from a Tracy. Um, and then, maybe in the last couple of weeks of the year, you go with a Dart or a Milrow to give them a start to see how they do, and they look like they're onto something. Then that is progress as far as I'm concerned. Because we're still a rebuilding team. So I definitely think that that's possible, but you never know. You never know. It's a surprising it's a surprising league because no one would have expected the Commanders to get as far as they did last year. Now that was because they selected a freaking generational quarterback, but still no one expected it. So you never know. You never freaking know. Maybe the Giants could win games that they have no business winning. They turned some of these one score losses that they had last year into wins, and wow, we're a competitive team. I don't think I'm almost certain we're not going to have a winning record this year, but there's a solid chance you get 7 wins, and heck, maybe 8. But I mean, it's a stretch, but it would need to be an incredible draft for that to happen. But it's possible. It's not impossible. I kind of like our roster a little bit, and I'll also be honest here. Had we fired Joe Shane, right, this would be probably the offseason that I would have wanted anyway from whoever would take over from him. Because I really wanted to get the only thing that I could really pinpoint that was kind of a mistake that they didn't get was a guard. I didn't quite understand why they didn't get a right guard, but there are some good guards in this class, so they're probably banking on that. And I certainly wouldn't have signed Darius Slayton. That was kind of it seems like a slight overpay. I think you probably could have not done that, but it's not the end of the world either. I'm not sweating it. It's not one of those signings that I'm like, why did we freaking do that? It's just like, okay, I get it. It's not my choice, but it's fine. You know what I'm saying? He still led the league in drops, so I really would have liked to have moved on from that. But it is what it is. It's still not that bad a signing. But to be honest, you get a Debo, you get a Hunter, a Holland. That's a really decent bit of business. You've still brought in a decent receiver. He's not my choice for receiver, but he's still decent. It's a pretty good off-season work, and they didn't give up a ton of assets, which they shouldn't really be doing anyway, to hurt them down the line. So that's smart business as well. They didn't give away any terrible contracts, which was good. So to be honest, if I was to ask whoever was to come in this spot, and it would probably be this. If you weren't able to trade up for a Cam Ward, this would be my choice. This would be absolutely my choice. So I can't hate on Joe Shane for this, man. I can't. This is a solid offseason work. And I'm glad that he was honest. He did say that he wasn't going to make like crazy deals that's going to maybe boost them short term but hurt them long term just to save his job. That does say something about a man, because we saw what Dave Gettleman did. We saw what Jerry Reese did. Jerry Reese is a snake. You know what I'm saying? And they had no regard for the future of this franchise. At least what I can say for Joe Shane is he does have regard for the future of this franchise, that he's not doing anything crazy.
Yeah. I think you brought up a great point, which is the sentiment that we all should, is that you draft a quarterback later, you get a Dart, you get a Monroe, and they play the last few weeks of the season, and you got to see something there. That's ultimately, I think, your selling point, the foundation of your selling point to John Mara about keeping these two guys. And also, I'll add this before I get to what the quintessential point should be coming out of this draft, whether you select quarterback or not, is Russell Wilson's never lost a game at MetLife. Now, he will lose one. This is not me jinxing anything.
He'll lose a few.
Yeah, he'll lose quite a few. But the Super Bowl, obviously, which was so cold, it wasn't even funny. And you have, I think, 2016, he played the Jets at MetLife. And I think he played the Giants 2017 at MetLife. 24-7 was the final score, and all that jazz. So before we get to like total expectations and all these other different things to close out, and if anyone's got any questions, let us know and hit the like button if you haven't already. And I said this again to Kenny on Unpopular Opinion Sports. However you feel about the quarterback, whether the Giants should take one in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sign an undrafted free agent. I hope you don't do that because that's Tommy DeVito 2.0. You got to come out of this draft. And I like what you said, Donald. You said this is not a terrible roster. Realistically, it's not. And I think the Giants made an observation, and I made an observation based off that observation, was that they said, we're not bad on offense. It was the quarterback. They didn't go out here and sign 10 different receivers. They didn't sign 20 different O-linemen. They didn't sign 10 different tight ends. No. All they did was re-sign Van Roten, re-sign Darius Slayton, and bring in 2 competent quarterbacks. More competent than we've had in about 6 years. Let's be completely fair, completely transparent. But the end message, not only at quarterback, in my personal opinion, but to some other people, it may differ, is you have to have an Eagles-type philosophy with this, right? How many years was it? Let's go back to 2020, 2021. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham on the roster. They draft Jordan Davis. They draft Jalen Carter about 2-3 years later, right? They drafted Josh Sweat. They drafted Nolan Smith. They drafted all these different guys. They still signed free agents. And it's not really a great look for the Giants in perspective because the Giants have not been a winning franchise in a very long time, in about 12 years since sustained success. The Eagles, on the other hand, they've had sustained success. So what the Giants need to do is they need to, honestly, sometimes, we predict picks and they get them right, or we should say, oh, yeah, and, they should go after this position. They should go after that position. They might need to wow us a couple of different times during this draft. What do you mean by? What do I mean by that? Let's just say they go into the second round. They find a fucking linebacker they like. They say that's our new Mike, right? Let's just say they put that on the table. They draft. This would be one of the more obvious things they should do. Draft another defensive tackle. Draft somebody who's going to be right next to Dexter Lawrence. Roy Robertson Harris is on a 1-year contract. Jeremiah Ledbetter, he is on a 1-year contract, right? Those guys are run stoppers. But to bring in somebody for the long term, again, to go to Donald's point about Matthias Kiwanuka, and then later on, JPP. That was essentially the philosophy that the Giants used to go by. The Eagles go by that philosophy now, but the Giants have lost that because they got to go in free agency and make this up because we're such bad drafters. We got to go to the draft because we're bad at signing free agents. Go draft a guard, right? Having John Runyon or Greg Van Roten doesn't stop you from taking a Tyler Booker or a Gray Zabel in the second round if he falls, right? One of the more memorable 2 selections in, I want to say 1 or 2 or 3 years apart. They had a great O-line. They still have a great O-line. The Eagles, Jason Kelsey, Brendan Brooks, Lane Johnson, Isaac Sumalo, and left tackle was Peters, and then it turned into Jordan Mailata, who that was a great pick in itself, great development itself. They took Landon Dickerson from us in 2021. And then, how many years later, they draft Cam Jurgens. Those guys are now starters because Brooks retired, Jason Kelsey retired, and look, now obviously Jeff Stoutland's a great O-line coach, but now those 2 guys are on the line. Those two guys are on the line, and they have not lost a freaking step. So while there might be some other there's some positions, yeah, DT, this position, quarterback, that position, wow us. Linebacker, go take a linebacker in the second or third round, right?
Why not?
There's other positions. Hell, if you don't like the confidence in Deonte Banks, take a fucking corner, right? Are you going to be doing that at 3 either way? And I know I'm rambling here, and I'm going to give Donald his thoughts, but let's just say you don't take a quarterback, and even if you do, it's kind of the same philosophy, right? You bring in a Travis Hunter. You have a stacked wide receiver room already. You bring him in at corner, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
You have a Debo and Hunter. Banks is essentially off the page. Abdul Carter. You're essentially saying bye-bye Kayvon Thibodeau. Or maybe you keep Thibodeau. Not that I would recommend it, but you have 3 guys in the edge room that can scare. Mason Graham. I mean, that's a little bit more upfront because, hey, it's a position of need. But overall, my thoughts, Donald, before I give it to you, is the Giants need to come out of this draft building for they don't have too many egregious holes as we head into the draft. But they need to draft like the Eagles. They need to draft like they actually are building for the future. Because in my opinion, in the past, it's always been draft for need, draft for need, draft for need. There's a hole at this position. There's a hole at this position. They need to go out here and draft for the future and draft. And don't be afraid to draft over, guys. I'm done talking.
Absolutely. The player we select at 3 has to be a potential star. It can't be a reach. It has to be a potential star because, let's be honest, the 2 top 10 picks we had in Joe Schoen's first year as general manager are busts. I mean, Kayvon, it's hard to call him a bust because it's not like he's been bad, but the fact that he's only an above average pass rusher, for considering where he was picked as a bust, if you know what I'm saying. So that's why he needs to hit. He needs to hit hard at 3. And if it's Hunter or if it's Carter, whoever they feel is the star of this draft outside the quarterback, I think they need to take it. I think they need to get that in there. And you've got a high 2 in which you can do further business. Now, I believe the Milroe has a big fan in the Steelers, so I don't know if he's going to drop much beyond 21. So we have to decide, really, is it worth trading up to get a Dart or a Milroe when we're kind of already secure in the quarterback room anyway? But these are all the questions that are going to be answered once we get into this draft process. There's a very good chance that somebody blows us away. Disgruntled Taco says Gianti's a Raider. The Giants should go best player available or trade down. Yeah, I just don't want to trade down too low.
Yeah. Nothing past you guys.
No, absolutely not. So there's a lot of, but this is the fun bit. Once we get in the draft, this is fun zone. I think the Giants did as well as I could have asked them to do. I honestly think that one of the underrated signings of the entire offseason was getting, and not just Giants in terms of the NFL, was getting Chauncey Golston. I think that was an underrated move, and I think he's going to turn some heads here and be a starter, not too distant future. So I think that was a low key smart move. It's one of my favorite moves of the offseason. And I was looking around, and no one's giving the Giants any credit for their offseason, and they're giving credit to the Chiefs who had a horrible offseason. And I'm thinking, just because they're a good team now doesn't necessarily mean that they made the smart moves. You know what I'm saying? Just because they're a reputable franchise doesn't necessarily mean that they've had a really good free agency. I think the Giants have had as good a free agency as I could have expected them to have, and I think it's been one of the better free agencies in the division. So
Better
I
than
think they're kind
Dallas.
of getting. I think they're getting a kind of a bad rep just because of. And I know that they have to earn that rep, but you know, I'm a very critical fan anyway, and I can take a step back and say, you know what? I think we've actually had a pretty damn decent free agency, and it's better than some of the teams that they're already saying are getting an A+ grade or an A grade. I'm thinking, I don't know about that. I think the Giants are right there with them. You know what I'm saying? But the Giants don't get any credit these days.
No, no. I mean, we did better than Dallas. Let me ask you this, right?
Yeah.
And this is because they particularly draft well. And I'm not saying this because our coach came from there and our GM came from there, but do the Buffalo Bills like make any splash signings? Usually, outside of Joey Bosa this offseason, they usually don't go into free agency
No, they
spending
don't.
like this. That's who they usually. That's who like the casuals and all these different people. That's who they usually give the creds to, right? Let me ask you a question. How many people had the Carolina Panthers as offseason winners last year? Guaranteed they didn't win enough games, but they had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL.
It's true.
Bet you that nobody had that in their bingo card because I fucking certainly didn't. So,
No.
I think you have to take off for most people, you got to take off the casual glasses and actually look like, okay, they did this, they did this, whatever. Um, Now, let me ask you this before I read the comments and we go into a mock draft.
Mm.
Let's just say we take Travis Hunter at 3,
Mm-hmm.
or we take an Abdul Carter, whatever. Would you, or would you save your picks? Would you trade back into the first round, not for a quarterback, but for like a Walter Nolan, who's a beast at defensive tackle, or Gray Zabel? Or would you save your picks?
Well, I mean, you could make the argument that you could that I would prefer to trade down, allow someone to trade up and take Saunders, and then we take that defensive tackle that you mentioned at say 9, 10, 11, whatever. You could do that. I'd be okay with that, but to be honest, I'm not that high on Dart,
Yeah,
but I need to see the process before. I'm really hesitant to give up assets, valuable assets, uh, especially if that quarterback is not going to be your quarterback of the future. And I highly doubt that whoever we take in the second round will be the quarterback of the future.
well, yeah,
I don't want to just take a quarterback just for take a quarterback, and that's why this has allowed us that bit of breathing space. Because Jameis Winston could surprise us. We could watch in camp and go, "Damn, Winston looks nice, low key nice." You know, maybe Russell Wilson is looks pretty decent too, and then you're like, "Oh shit, we've got two decent quarterbacks here. There's not really any room." It could happen.
yeah. No, listen, all
So
options are on the table.
I'm not taking a quarterback just to take a quarterback.
Yeah,
So um, the way that this draft looks like it is like top 10 heavy, right? And then after that, there's a lot of depth that can go as far back into the far down into the like third round. You could that there's not a huge difference between taking someone say 21 and say someone at 68. You know what I'm saying? Where you could get kind of similar talent levels. So that's why I think that at 3 you take best player available. You try and get one of the stars of the draft in there, and then you've got tons of assets in which you can go best player available from that point on. If it's quarterback, great.
yeah,
If not, don't reach.
yeah.
I don't think it's the quarterback class to reach. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. So, I mean, Mike, I obviously got your point and all, but like my question was more geared towards let's just for the first two quarterbacks for the first two rounds we're ruling out quarterback. First round you go Travis Hunter
Okay.
or Abdul Carter or you trade to 9, right?
Okay.
And then let's just pick whatever player you want at 9 or whatever scenario. You go to 34th overall. And I know
Mhm.
Mike said he wanted to save the picks. let's just say your ultimate plan, maybe in the third round, if you keep that pick, is to get like a Will Howard or a Tyler Show, third or fourth round, or Dylan Gabriel. I don't know.
Wow. Yeah.
Let's just say you have a first round guy like Gray Zabel or Walter Nolan fall to you in the second round. You haven't taken quarterback yet, obviously, but they are players that are really good for that value. Let's just say they're sitting there at 28, 27 overall. You're at 34. That's your next pick. You don't have a pick till tomorrow. Do you call that team and say, I want to trade back in for this player? Or do you want to stay at 34?
Oh, sorry. Well, if you're sitting at 34 and there's a first round talent that's kind of dropping in your zone in which you can trade up for, and after that there's a bit of a drop off, then yes, you absolutely do what you need to do to continue to bring talent in the building. There isn't enough talent in the building, thus do whatever it takes to do that. I'm absolutely on board with that for sure.
Yeah. Especially, and again, like the Eagles have done that. I think they traded up for Jalen Carter. So, I mean, this entire process is going to be interesting. And I feel like, I don't know, Donald, maybe this is for you at least, because I know last year were very critical of the Burns move and stuff like that. This sounds like a fun, like obviously they haven't made a zillion moves, but this seems like a fun, creative offseason.
Yeah, and to be honest, you have to rebuild through the draft. You don't rebuild through free agency. So we attacked certain needs in free agency, but we've also left ourselves a lot of maneuverability in the draft, and we set ourselves up in a situation where we go best player available, and that's a really decent situation considering where we are as a franchise. So I reiterate, I can't ask much more than what Joe Schoen's done this offseason. And although the Burns move was a bit of an overpay, I would say the contract was probably the biggest aspect of the overpay rather than the trade itself. The trade was fine. It was maybe the contract itself was a slight overpay, but he's still by far our best pass rusher, and it's not even close, and he's still one of the only stars in this building. So I'm not sweating that either. So to be fair, Joe Schoen had a decent offseason last year. You can make that argument. The only real mistake that he made was the Saquon Barkley debacle. That was one of the biggest debacles in the history of the sport. But you can make up for it by having a good draft and bringing in a really good running back that can compete with Tracy. And because I do think we need to make this offense more exciting. We need some more playmakers in the building on offense. We've kind of covered defense to a large extent in free agency. Let's go and get offense in the draft. But I still think 3 needs to be a defensive player, and then the rest of that, much of the rest of the draft, you use for offense, bringing some receivers in the building, and a really good running back, and I'd be pretty happy. And another quarterback, ideally, but not a reach.
Yeah, I love this signing. I have a theory about the draft. I would never draft a running back. I wouldn't draft a running back in the first round. Later on, I would, especially this draft. I would, Scatabo and Devin Neal and those guys. Like that's where you got to hit. And one more thing, which is basically again a point we've been echoing on, is not just drafting for the future, but also drafting depth. Right? How many times did the corner room get injured last year, or this happened and that happened? And they had me and you playing corner last year.
You can never
like that was that's like you can't have Art Green playing corner. You need to have some depth back there. And like, for example, right, you have your first 2 corners. You have a Debo. You have Deontay Banks. And you have Andrew Phillips. Cordell Flott. I think you could keep him on the roster. I think he's a solid depth piece. I mean, third round. I think he's decent, right? Trey Hawkins, I don't know because he tore his ACL, but he looked pretty good. So other than that, I would have said yes. D. Williams, I don't know. He seems like a scrub. Nick Jones seems like a scrub. And that's pretty much that. So I would take corner in this draft.
Sure.
You take a look at linebacker, right? Bobby O, he will need to get replaced eventually. So you may need to prioritize linebacker earlier than you seem. McFadden's a better fit for this scheme. You got to see what Deontay Johnson does. I thought he had a really nice preseason last year, but obviously missed a lot of the season. Chris Board is just a depth guy. Darius Muasau, he's probably just going to be a special teamer. I think you're covered in the edge rusher room unless you draft somebody like Abdul Carter, which would mean that Thibodeau is probably leaving. As we've discussed before, probably another one or two defensive tackles. They brought in offensive line competition for Josh Azudu, who is projected to be the swing tackle. They brought in James Hudson. They brought in Stone Forsythe, who aren't great, but they're competition. They brought back Aaron Stinney. I thought he did a very decent job last year. So it's not just, we got to draft the future. It's about getting depth. That's essentially what it is. Because you don't want to have, this guy fall and then our season's over. How do I feel about Sanders? I mean, I would still, Donald's not the highest on him. I would still potentially take him at 3, but I also have to admit that I haven't watched a nice chunk of film yet. So that's pretty much that. But I will say this, right, as we go into our mock draft to end this stream, I'm going to be actually fair this time. I'm going to stick to the philosophy of we're not going to take a quarterback at 3. So little bit of a headliner there. We're not going to take.
I think that's probably the way we're going to do it.
Because it's probably going to be the most realistic. So
I don't think we will either.
Exactly. So we are here at 3 now. Of course, we could also answer trade calls when that happens. But anyway, let's see how it does. So Shedeur Sanders. I'm going to restart this because there's no way Cam Ward is falling to us.
Yeah, we need to make that realistic as possible.
Yeah. And let's just say that this time it has Cam Ward coming to us again. We're just going to act like Cam Ward isn't there. In which it does. So
unbelievable.
In that regard,
is this the best? Is this the best website?
This is the best trade offer that we have. The best trade offer, best simulator.
Yeah, is this the best simulator? Because the last simulator seemed to be a bit more realistic.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one's fair in terms of player boards and stuff like that. The only problem is Cam Ward's still there. But the thing that does fall to us is A, we do have Travis Hunter, and B, we were talking about the Saints earlier. They're probably trading up for Cam Ward. Now, how far do you want to fall is the question. The other trade offer is shit. Not even considering that. Do we do Hunter or do we do this deal? We get an extra 4th. We get a 2nd, a 4th, and a 7th for next year.
Let's have a look at the draft board.
Sure, we could do that. Okay. So we got Travis Hunter, we got Mason Graham, we got Will Campbell, we got Ashton Genty, we got Armin Membu, we have Teeter.
Down that far. Let's go back up. I mean,
sure.
Either Hunter or Mason Graham are in that kind of. There's that trio of potential All-Pro players, and it's Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter,
and Mason
Graham. In this scenario, though, if Cam Ward is sitting there, you take him every day, but he's not.
Yeah.
But
we're going to block him out.
It's between Hunter and Mason Graham. If I was to choose, I would choose Mason Graham.
Okay. I'm gonna actually dissent. I would take Travis Hunter here.
Okay.
I would take Travis Hunter. What's up, Evan? Do you think we take a QB in the 2nd round? Yeah, I think it's definitely on the table. Past the 1st round. And we also may operate that way. And we're just going to operate like Cam Ward's not there. So would you be okay if we took Travis Hunter here?
Yeah, I mean, he's arguably the best prospect in the draft. I'm still not sure if he's.
You don't know what he's good at.
If he's the best. Yeah, well, if he's the best or better receiver or corner. But okay, I'm more than happy to go Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter it is, A. Okay, Cam Ward's not falling that far. I don't know what to tell them. So we go to the second round. We go to 34. Right. Now, obviously, the trade ding, ding, ding could be ringing for us. Someone might want to trade with us. One trade offer. I'm not falling that far. Donald,
No,
are you?
no.
Okay, so works out for us because guess what? Now, of course, I don't know that I would want to go defense 2 times in a row, but there's a couple of different options we could go here. There's Kenneth Grant, who's Mason Graham's teammate. There's Josh Simmons from Ohio State. I haven't done work on him. Walter Nolan's a beast, and there's Grace
Walter
Abelstead
Nolan.
there.
I'm thinking Walter Nolan.
With the depth in this, you know what? I'm gonna agree with you, Donald. It's a lot of Giant fans are gonna be pissed off. Don't give a shit. We're gonna go Walter Nolan here
Why would fans be pissed off at Walter Nolan?
because they probably would want offensive. I don't know. Hunter at corner is huge. You need to put him at wide receiver in the red zone. Yeah, it could be
Best
a
player available. That's what I want.
okay. I'm not gonna fall this far. What do you think?
No, I want to see what we've got. It's
81.
the best player available. I want a running back. Anyway.
Okay. All right. We got these guys. I like
Mason Taylor.
I would say, Taylor. I've heard is pretty decent.
Caleb Johnson.
Caleb Johnson. Yep, I saw a highlight video of him recently. He's pretty damn good.
I love
Tate
Caleb.
Ratledge. I like some Ratledge. I think he's a really consistent, solid guard. Jordan Burks, or he's more of an edge.
Yeah, we do need a guard. I definitely think we could do with another receiver
and running back.
And
eventually.
definitely a running back as well. I love Judkins. I've really liked his film. I've been watching him for a while. I think he could be really good. And that's a beast of a running back room now with him and Tyrone Tracy. That's what
Unfortunately,
I'm going with.
Judkins unfortunately is off the board.
Oh shit! I thought he was still there. Okay.
I'm kind of rooting on Tate Ratledge.
I think we need to go guard in that case.
All right, Tate Ratledge.
Although there's Caleb Johnson as well. Hopefully he's still there.
Oh yeah, we do have another third, but we'll see. He might be gone. He might not be gone.
Can we pause and trade up and get him?
Oh, Scatterbo just left. Okay.
Shit.
All right. Okay. I was talking about linebacker before. Demetrius Knight. Another O-line. D-line, we already went for right now. Running back, Dylan Sampson's not bad.
Oh, I like Dylan Sampson.
I think we should go Dylan Sampson.
I agree.
Dylan
I love me
Sampson
some
it is.
Dylan Sampson. He's fast as shit.
I think now, obviously, we'll value our options here. Let's get this fucking ad. We got all A's so far, so that's good. I think with balancing the BPA, we should start looking for a flyer quarterback.
Oh no, definitely at this stage. To be honest, those were our needs. Kind of. So we got someone for the line. We got a little bit of something on offense. We got our guards. We got a star quality player at 3 that can also be a receiver. So let's have a look and see what we have at quarterback and take best player available at quarterback.
So we got Dylan Gabriel, who you would definitely consider within this realm. Kyle McCord and Riley Leonard, and Curtis.
Now you're a Notre Dame fan. What's your inside take on Leonard?
Running ability, he's a poor man's Josh Allen. I'm gonna actually take a look at Luca's scouting report for Riley Leonard. Obviously, he was a former Duke guy, so
I would probably say Gabriel or McCord's better.
Yeah. So here is Leonard's scouting report for Luca. Finds good holes in zone coverage, accurate in the short game, good vision for a running quarterback. Weaknesses: his deep ball isn't great. Tends to have happy feet, not step into his throws, and accuracy when he rolls out of the pocket. Um, Gabriel, I think, is okay. I'm not too high on him, but at this stage, like, who gives a shit? Um, and then you have Kyle McCord. Also, to look at who we have here, um, just a couple of guys. Charles Grant's a nice option. Tez Johnson, he's still there. Chris Paul, I like Chris Paul, not the point guard, but Chris Paul. I think I might, I might be in the Chris Paul train right here. He fits Bowen's scheme, so for me, I could go. There's a litany of guys that could go. Paul, Tez Johnson, Gabriel, and that's pretty much it, in my opinion.
Well, I'm a big fan of Tez Johnson. I'm a huge fan of Tez Johnson. That guy is like
he's here is crazy.
The fact he's still there is probably making me edge towards him. I'm looking at the quarterback listings on NFLDraftBuzz.com, right? And they've got Kyle McCord is the 7th best quarterback, Gabriel 8, Leonard 9. But there's not a big difference because Leonard's rated at 83 and McCord's rated 83.4. So there's not a big difference. Kyle McCord is more of a pocket passer, but he's probably well suited in it because he's got a decent football IQ. So there's that. Dylan Gabriel, the scouting report here says, let's be real, the measurables are rough. Bottom tier numbers across the board in height, weight, arm length, and wingspan. Probably not then. Leonard says here, physical traits outstrip his current level of play, despite moments of brilliance. Well, I mean, you could maybe make something out of that.
Yeah.
I'm going Tez Johnson, though. The fact that Tez Johnson is there is crazy to me.
You could BPA that.
I'm going that. Yeah.
Bye-bye, Wandale Robinson. Our next pick is
happy
154.
He's better than Wandale Robinson.
All right. So we got 154, which is our next pick. We got to now. Are we playing Hunter at corner or wide receiver?
Well, he's probably going to be filling at both, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine.
Probably corner. I think he's
corner. Yeah,
I think he's probably more corner.
Okay, so
Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant is definitely an option. Savion Jones, this dude has huge fucking arms. Huge. He's a great run defender. Huge arms. Holland Pierce, swing tackle depth. Apparently, he's a beast. We already took Ali Gore. We already took running back. Jeffrey Bossa isn't bad at this point in the draft. Mondone isn't bad at this point in the draft. Peebles is very good. And we still have Dylan Gabriel here.
Ooh, I still think we better take quarterback. I think we better take quarterback.
Yeah, you know what, Donald, you are right because 154 then 219.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's look at CEO quarterback options. Pretty much the same as the last time.
Perfect. We did the right thing then. And give me Kyle McCord, I think.
Okay.
Or Riley Leonard, whichever one you prefer. Not Dylan Gabriel. I don't think he's that good.
Give me Kyle McCord. All right, so we're sticking to all A's.
Look at this. This is a great draft class, man.
Yeah, thank you, Joe Shane, for allowing us to
And we haven't made a single trade.
No.
The good news is, because Travis Hunter is probably a corner, we don't need to. We're pretty good.
And we already have a wide receiver with Tez.
And we've got running back. We've got guard.
Yeah, we have defensive tackle.
We got our third quarterback.
Okay, here we are. This is where my my knowledge gets a little spotty. I have no idea who Buchanan is. Beatty's supposedly decent. Willie Lampkin, he's very good. But the problem with him is, and he did well considering against some decent opponents in the ACC with UNC. his size is not really what you want at an NFL level.
Okay.
He's 5'10", and he is 270 pounds.
Oh no.
So
Terrible. That's not going to work.
yeah.
I'm thinking linebacker.
Okay, so we have Jay Higgins on the board. Riley Mills is somebody we could also consider. Ty Hamilton.
Oh shit, Riley Leonard's still there.
Yeah. If we didn't take running back earlier, LaQuint Allen would have been our guy. Yeah. I mean, I noticed some names, but let's look at linebacker. So we got Buchanan. Some I will say Reed is decent. Lindenberg was the signal caller of the Minnesota defense.
Oh yeah.
So there's
He's
that.
Kind of captain, right? He's kind of a captain figure.
Yeah.
To be honest, at this stage, you're probably looking for leadership. You're probably looking for guys that are going to be special teams leaders. So, I like what your suggestion is. Go with the guy that was the play caller.
Oh yeah, Cody Lindenberg. Let me just real quickly. I'm going to look at the top 2 linebackers, and then I'll make my decision. So Higgins, let's see what he projects to be. Jay Higgins out of Iowa. Let's see. Strengths: high football IQ instincts, run stopper, working downhill and tackling machine.
Oh.
Problems: lateral movements, scheme specific, lacks sideline to sideline speed, and average athleticism. To be honest with you, I don't really have a problem with much of that because Shane Bowen's scheme fits Micah McFadden and Deontay Johnson.
And we actually need someone that can defend the run.
Yes. So there's that. And then I'm going to look at Mr. Teddy Buchanan. Interesting spelling on the name. Looking at Draft Buzz. Can't shed blocks. Lateral movement is average. Lacks ideal size for the position. He currently measures out at, hold on. Let's see. Let's do the NFL measurements here. Measured in at 6'2", 233. That's not all bad. Yeah, so it doesn't.
It's a little small. You know what?
Yeah.
Let's go with.
I like Higgins.
Let's go with Higgins. Yeah.
All right. A again. Donald, can we have all A's?
Let's go. We're in pretty good shape to just go BPA. That's crazy that Riley Leonard's still available, man. We could have just held off on quarterback. Yeah. Would you want to go with more secondary depth, or do you want to get another tackle, or maybe a tight end?
Okay. Tight end, I feel like they covered a little bit, but we're not ruling it out. I want to see what corner looks like. Mello Dotson, don't know much on him. BJ Adams, Bilal Cohn, little knowledge on those guys. Edge help. Oliver can play edge and linebacker. Tight end Urasek. Bartholomew's a good blocking tight end. He's a monster in that. Don't really know much of the safeties. I don't know why I selected long snapper. It's we could go tight end, but it's literally up to anything at this point. Jake Majors played center, so if we need a backup center,
that's not a bad shout.
And backup center, and if what's his face sucks, JMS, then
I'm kind of all right with that.
Okay. Jake Majors is our pick, and we finish off the B. Damn it!
Still, what a draft!
That's a pretty. I'm saving this. This is a pretty good draft.
That is a beautiful draft.
I mean, I would not be mad with it, right? You get your quarterback in the 5th round, and
dude, imagine if Tez Johnson jumps to set 105.
The Giants better be on their knees calling for him.
Would be doing somersaults. Same with Dylan Sampson in '99. Steal. Yeah, that was a fun draft, man. That was much better.
That was the best. Yeah, the best draft we've done. Yeah, all off season. But we'll start closing it out here. Obviously, we wanted to come on and talk about the whole Russell Wilson escapade. Donald, any final thoughts that you have?
I'm excited. I think that it was a decent signing, and this is the best quarterback room that we've had since the late Eli days. It doesn't, as we've discussed, it doesn't exactly change like where we're at. We're still very much in rebuild mode, but what I love about this is it's a very cheap contract. B, Wilson actually wants to be a Giant, unlike Aaron Rodgers. I'm really glad that we've ended that charade. That's really good because it was kind of embarrassing. It's an embarrassing look for the Giants to be sitting and pleading to have someone who just doesn't want to be there. Never, ever overpay for someone who just doesn't want to be there. Because it reminds me of when the Knicks were on hands and knees pleading with Phil Jackson to take an executive spot in the Knicks, and he had no interest in doing it. So he overpaid until he finally was like, all right, I'll do it. But he did an awful job. So because he didn't want to be there. And so I think it would be the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Glad that that's out of the question. Russell Wilson genuinely wants to be a Giant. Great. I think he's gonna play better than he did last year. I think Jameis Winston might surprise some people. He looks fit. Have you seen his workout videos? Dude's ripped. So he could surprise you. There's every chance in camp that there isn't a big difference between the two. In fact, I'm pretty sure there isn't much of a big difference between the two anyway. So there could be some competition. That could be exciting. And I think the Giants have probably doubled their win total from last year. If all goes to plan and we have a good draft. What I love is that we now go best player available in the draft. Don't need to reach for a quarterback. Great. Let's get our notepads out. Let's get studying. Let's go with the best player available. And I'm kind of excited to see where it takes us. Can't argue with Joe Schoen's offseason. Never been a big fan of his, but as I said before, if we were to fire him and we brought in a new GM, this would be one of the better off seasons I could have thought of from any GM in that position that we're in. So with that in mind, then I have to give Joe Schoen the credit that he deserves. It's a solid offseason to this point. Now let's have a good draft because that's where it all comes down to. Have a good draft.
Yeah, well, just up to Jay Ferry's in the chat. Yeah, I mean, the two of us drafted over Jalen Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson in our mock. Jalen Hyatt's not going to become anything. I'm sorry. I'm not going to lie. Travis Hunter is hard to pass on. Him and Neighbors would be special on offense. Yeah, no, listen. We picked him in the mock draft we just did, and very real possibility at 3, him or Abdul Carter. So I'm slowly. I need a plan at quarterback for the future, but I'm slowly starting to buy in even more to BPA and just drafting for the future and setting your guys up. But make sure you guys follow Donald on Twitter, DStewart267. Sub up to the Pitch Drop Chronicles. I don't know when the next time I'll be live for anything Giants related, maybe like a live mock draft or something like that. I'll think about it. We'll be live for the Yankees in a few days. Eventually, probably with Sean doing one of the games as opening day was today. So if you haven't already, please go subscribe to Pinstripes and Pile Drivers. But anyway, we appreciate you guys for coming back. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops video drops. Appreciate you coming back. Peace out, guys. See you later. Stay cool and do all the good stuff.
Let's go.